Hey guys, good evening. Today we have Stan who's joining us from Mumbai, and we also have Dr. Satish on the show. But Satish will join in after a couple of minutes. So Stan has various backgrounds. I'm really impressed with his profile. He's done his journalism. He's been a people manager. He's been working with large organizations earlier. He's been the CEO of TVC Sky Shop and TV Products Hong Kong Limited, which is in Mumbai. And sometime later, I think there was a calling, and he decided to move into wellness. And right now, he is working on something which is really beautiful, which everybody will be fascinated to know about. So he's right now the CEO of. Yeah, there is a brand which is called Velocity Booster. Okay, and he's part of the Velocity group. So I would request Stan to describe about this particular miracle, which talks about more than the prevention, rather than they're talking about prediction of diseases, how somebody can predict what can happen to you in future and take precautionary measures so that you are in safer hand, and your healthcare professionals can take care of you, you can take care of yourself. So thanks a lot, Stan, for joining us on this particular show. Before we get started, maybe you can give a brief. I've only given a short intro about you, based on what I know about, but if you can talk about yourself, and then we get on to this particular subject.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi Shankar, for that introduction. I think it's more than enough. It's not really about me, but the technology or what we're going to talk about, which can help all our viewers and everybody who is conscious about their health. So on behalf of Velocity Booster and also Velocity Genetics, I'd like to thank for giving me this opportunity, to all the organizers and administrators at Work TV. And I also thank Mr. Jayarao for coordinating this. So yeah, as you rightly mentioned, I definitely was an ordinary corporate executive, and then I definitely found my calling in the wellness industry. And I took up a few projects where I could actually associate myself with the intellectual distribution of wellness. Today, if you go back, say, around 25, 30 years, the word nutraceuticals was relatively new to the Indian population. We all probably thought of having a disease, going to a doctor, and then getting treatment, and then possibly getting well. But 25, 30 years back, we talked about nutraceuticals, health supplements, apart from little forgotten Ayurvedic herbs also. 25, 30 years, probably we didn't care much enough about even Ayurveda. So we probably had these alternative therapies, but they were not really getting that kind of prominence and that kind of kind of awareness between people. It wasn't there. It was not as much as it is right now, especially in 2021 after this unfortunate pandemic. So like the word nutraceutical became quite popular, there was another world of health and wellness, health industry that opened up, and that is wellness. So the concept of wellness is very easy to understand. It is exactly opposite of illness. In the world of illness, we all get reactive because the disease or a health condition comes first, and then we go to the doctor, get treatment, and the doctors are really well trained to understand the symptoms of a particular health condition, and then then get a suitable treatment as per the protocol that's been decided by the competent medical bodies, and then they would suppress the symptoms to a great extent and give a lot of relief to the patient. So moving on from that reactive approach, the wellness industry actually talked about proactive approach much before you can get a disease, much before the disease will internally damage you and you're in a situation where the treatment probably wouldn't work for you. So there was a concept of that after 35, maybe 40, you'll have to do a master health checkup every year so that you can actually assess what kind of symptoms or what kind of health challenges you might face or you have internally, which are not really expressed. So you wouldn't know the impact of that because you don't have any symptoms or any indications of that. So people started, and a lot of corporate companies made this initiative to their senior executives, where people could go and then do a master health checkup. And today we have a lot of companies, a lot of diagnostic centers who do master health checkup. So that's being more proactive, and that's the world of wellness. But we are going up a step further. I wouldn't say one step, but a few steps further. And we are talking about predictive healthcare. Now, what does that mean? Well, we all understand the word prediction, and you can also probably understand the word of, astrology. So astrology, I'm not an expert on that, so I can't speak on that, but astrology definitely tells you something about your future. So how about we conceptualizing a world of astrology on health based on solid scientific evidence, and with a lot of research that's being done. So now the world is talking about predictive healthcare. I want to give two instances or two examples with which we can understand how the world of predictive healthcare is very, very relevant today. Let's go back to the year 2000. In the Bay of Bengal, the states like maybe shores of Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, and Bengal, they were being constantly threatened by a lot of cyclones that used to come. So in 2000, we had the super cyclone of in Bengal, which has causing the death of more than 10,000 people. Now, the Indian Meteorological Department got really proactive. They were not reacting after the cyclone has come. This time they said, okay, let's start preparations. They did a lot of research. They did a lot of work on the technology front. They with the help of other organizations, they sent the satellites to the space. And with that, those satellites, with the technology, they could now predict the onset of a cyclone, much before it could come and could devastate people's property and people's lives. So last 1 month, we have seen two such, cyclones. One is Cyclone Taukte and the other one is Yas. Now, if you could see right now, the human damage is very, very minimum right now, except for one unfortunate incident in Mumbai, with the barge. There are like hundreds of people, and even to identify some of the, bodies, they're still doing genetic tests. I'll come to that a little later. So what really is something that we can assess here is that with the help of technology, now we can predict a cyclone much before it can create havoc, and the administration will take all kinds of precautions so that there is less or minimal loss of life and the properties are not being damaged. We'll see a lot of trees being uprooted, the roofs are being flown off. So all that precautions are taken care so that there's not much damage. People would evacuate people, though sometimes people are not very cooperative. They're very reluctant to move from their place, but the government by forcefully takes them out simply because they want to save them. Now look at the same analogy for healthcare. Now when the pandemic came, the whole of medical world was caught absolutely unaware, and the kind of treatment that we are giving in the month of June 2021 is much different than what people started, or the medical world started, in the year 2020, maybe February, March, April, because there was no trial and error method. There was not much of evidence as to what the nature of the virus is. So with a lot of trial and error method, and unfortunately we have lost of people across the world. More than 3 million people have succumbed to this disease. India has more than 3 lakh people have been devastated or lost their life because of this. And of course, let's not talk about the financial issues, job, business, profession. That's kept. Let's keep that aside. So coming only to the health aspect, a lot of us have been affected. Many people have recovered. Now, how about a scenario where we actually feel that, okay, all the health problems that a person can, have in the future can be predicted much before. Now, how that is possible? That's possible through a genetic test or a DNA test. So, we also have Dr. Satish in our panel, who is who's an expert in diabetes. And if you see, India is now so-called the capital of diabetes. disease or a lifestyle condition. There are nearly around 8 crores people in India suffering currently with the diabetes, and they're taking various kinds of medicine. The same way, there are another 8 crore people who are very likely to become diabetic, because we call them pre-diabetic, because they could be the family members of a full-blown diabetic patient, or it could be their first-degree relatives. So, or it could be people who are just at the verge of, getting into a full-blown diabetic condition because of their stress levels, their hereditary issues, their lifestyle, which is quite different than what it was earlier. So now, assuming for a pre-diabetic person who is, let's say, going to have a diabetic condition after 3, 4, 5, 10 years, if you tell them through a genetic test that you are likely to have diabetes in the future, you're prone to this kind of a health condition, and then we give them a solution which is based not really on medicine, but based on food, because our organization firmly believes that let food be thy medicine, which is a philosophy that the father of medicine, Hippocrates, has propagated 2,500 years back, which people, of course, we have all forgotten because we've got a very erratic, very artificial kind of a lifestyle. So if that is something that we can incorporate just by consuming the right food based on our genetic makeup, I think that could be one solution. And there are a lot of lifestyle changes, lifestyle modifications. Today we're eating a lot of junk food. Our exercise regimen is completely altered. We have a lot of financial stress, relationship related stress, and various kinds of stress, social stress and everything. And we also have very less absorption of vitamin D3, which also is impacting a lot of people. We never heard people having vitamin D3 problems 20, 30 years before, because people are walking on the sun and your skin, eyes would make your vitamin D3, which is required for your proper metabolism of the body. But today we are all sitting in AC houses, cabins, vehicles. So we are not exposed to the sun anymore. So our body doesn't really make that kind of a vitamin D. And if you go to a doctor, medical doctor, they would probably prescribe you vitamin D, vitamin B12 test, because a lack of nutrients in our body is today creating a lot of lifestyle related issues. So not just diabetes, it could be cardiovascular conditions. Obesity is killing a lot of people. So all these underlying conditions are actually contributing to major diseases. And a lot of people today, there are a lot of controversial things, contradictory statements made by various healthcare professionals. So a lot of people also claim that the people are not actually dying out of COVID, but they're dying out of COVID because, they're categorized as that their death is out of COVID because the immune system is absolutely weak, and it cannot really sustain the impact of the coronavirus. That's because they either have any one of the underlying conditions that I have mentioned, whether it's diabetes, cardiovascular conditions, obesity, so many other things. So what we have is we are the first company in India to introduce a concept called predictive healthcare through Nutrigenomics DNA testing program. Okay, Mr. Ravi Shankar, if you allow me in 2 minutes, I will brief you as to what exactly it means. Now, all of us know that we have a human body which is made up of systems and organs and tissues and cells. So a fundamental unit of our body is cell. That cell has a nucleus. And I'm sure all of you must have definitely heard that the cell also has chromosomes. Now, there are 23 sets of chromosomes. 23 come from a biological father and 23 come from a biological mother. So now both our father and mother are not from the same family. They are also from different families. Now, the same phenomenon also applies to them, that they also have the same physiology or the anatomy of the body, and they also have 2 sets of chromosomes come from their father and their mother. So it's a simple case of genetics or hereditary that we can call it. So what happens is that one generation passes on their genetic traits, whether it's physical, emotional, behavioral, to the offspring, to their children. So now a child, for example, me, I am actually a production or an outcome of my father's and my mother's traits, so that I might carry a mix of those. But it's not just my father and mother, but their father and mother as well. So when we go back, I probably carry millions of years of history in my body. But in our mythology, in our religious stories, we have all heard a lot about Sat Janam, 7 generations. So at least 7 generation means you have a history. I have a history in my body of at least 500 years. Now, in all those 7 generations, whatever traits that they have had, my father, their forefathers, and their forefathers, I am likely to carry. Now, the difference between one human being to another human being is 0.1% only. 99.9% mine and Ravi, your genes are, our genetic structure is same. But that 0.1% makes us look a little different. I might have, hair on my head still, but you may not have. And that could be a hereditary contribution that could have. So these are all physical traits. So what if I come to know as to what are my physical traits, what are my emotional traits? Am I somebody who gets upset very fast or get depressed very fast, or I'm short tempered, or I'm a happy go lucky joyful person? These are all emotional traits. There are so many other behavioral traits, like how do I react to a situation? For example, I may be very upset with the government, the way they're handling things right now, or I probably might say, look, it's not easy to handle, you can't handle a family sometimes, and to handle to rule a country of 140 crores of people, well, it's a daunting task. So how do I react to a situation also is induced by our genetics. So in short, bottom line is that we can predict as to what our genetics is. Now, this is nothing to do with diseases. This is nothing to do with treatment per se. This is nothing clinical. It's purely the technology that's available today. Like we do diagnostic tests, blood tests and X-rays and the MRI scans, CT scans. They all reveal certain bio information about your body and your health condition. So what we do at Velocity Genetics is that we take a saliva sample of a person, and this sample can be given by anyone who can spit in a spitting tube that we give. That's anybody who can spit, like 1.5, 2 years, 3 years child to any age. You can really get genetic insights. The samples that we collect is sent to a DNA lab, and there is a huge process, and we are right now currently doing around 210 genetic tests across various health conditions, emotional, physical traits, and also there's a small section on pharmacogenomics. That means the medicines that we are taking, is it efficiently working? Is there an efficacy of that medicine in your body? Is what something that we can find out. So it takes around 21 working days in the lab to process the saliva sample through various methods, and then we come out with a report. That report actually predicts as to what are the various risk factors, and based on that risk factors, our counselors will be able to give a counseling. It's not just a consultation, but it's an hour-long counseling. So the moment I take an X-ray, I may probably collect the X-ray myself from the lab, but I wouldn't be able to make much sense out of it because I'm not an expert to interpret. I need to go back to the doctor, show it to him, and then get an interpretation from him. So we send the report to our clients, which is around 250 pages report. It's like a complete, mirror of who you are. And this report can be interpreted, or it is interpreted by genetic counselors in a very simple layman language, telling our clients as to what are their strengths are, what are their weaknesses, and how this report is going to help them live a healthy, happy, and a longer life. Because after the counseling, we're going to tell them a few modifications that they should be doing, whether in their food, whether in their exercise, whether in their lifestyle modification, sleep patterns for that matter. Today, the sleep patterns have completely been disrupted. People are sleeping late, people are waking up late, or people are not sleeping enough, or maybe some people are sleeping too much. So all these irregularities is something that we correct. So these are all non-medical treatments. I wouldn't even call it a treatment. These are recommendations. People implement that and they've done wonderful results. So in the last 4 years that we are into this service, we have sequenced, we call it a genetic sequencing. We have sequenced more than 10,000 customers. That includes a lot of VIPs, politicians, bureaucrats, dietitians, medical doctors, and anybody health conscious individuals, families. And we've been able to, create a lot of awareness on this. So that's a small gist of what we are doing. So we basically are a genomic-based wellness company. We are into, creating two-prong approach that we have is creating an awareness. We do a lot of scientific symposiums, workshops, and education, webinars. In the lockdown, during lockdown, we have done around 6 scientific webinars. We just finished one this Friday, Saturday. There were experts or genetic experts, alternative therapy experts, people from the field of nutrition and genetics coming together and educating people by saying that don't wait for a disease. Many a times it's too late. We hear people, saying that, he was absolutely all right till yesterday, but then suddenly succumbed to a disease. It doesn't really happen that way unless and until, it's an accident. Even a cardiac arrest also has an history. It's very difficult to predict through a blood-based diagnostic test. But from a genetic perspective, it could be predicted much earlier. So I want to stop here, and then probably you can ask questions which I can answer.
Yeah. So Stan, when we're talking about, prevention, so does this come under prevention, or, this is far beyond that?
Yeah, I would see it broadly. It's not definitely curative. That means it is not for people who are already sick. While, of course, it will also help people who are sick, because it also tells you the root cause of any condition that you have right now. It tells you, why do you have that? Well, I can give an example. Let's take diabetes. Dr. Satish will speak a little later. Now, diabetes is a lifestyle condition. A lot of people are, this is not a condition where you need to be admitted. You've got to be there in the ICU and ventilator, but it's a lifestyle condition. You will definitely have a lot of irritation, a lot of, issues. Now, the reason for a diabetic disease could be multifold. It's not just one reason. It could be because you have a hereditary genetic carrier so that it is expressed at certain point of time, or it could be because of a very erratic lifestyle. It could be because of various addictions that you could have, whether it could be tobacco or alcohol and a lot of other addictions, or it could be because of a lot of stress and your body or your pancreas are not able to secrete enough insulin and your body doesn't manage the sugar well. So now a diabetic patient will not be able to get treatment from genetics, but it actually will tell a diabetologist to treat his patients better because it gives genetic insights. So with these insights, it's like another kind of a diagnostic test which tells the root cause. So all the sick people can opt for a genetic test to find out what is the root cause, though it's not a clinical or a medical test. But I would rather say a genetic test is for a healthy person, the so-called healthy person who feels, okay, I'm healthy, I have no conditions, but internally what's happening, nobody knows. A lot of people who were COVID positive also didn't really know they were COVID positive because they were asymptomatic. They didn't really have body pain, fever, lack of smell, taste and everything. They didn't have. But of course, eventually it did attack, maybe because their immune system is so strong, it did not really create that kind of a damage. Whereas on the other side, we have also seen people who are apparently looking very fit, healthy, and the Indigo owner who succumbed to this not really because of COVID, but of course he had recovered from COVID, and then of course when he was cycling, he had a cardiac arrest, and then do this. So apparently these people look very healthy, but inside what's happening really we don't care unless and until we have a tragedy or we have a serious condition. So for those people, in order to anticipate what are the health condition I possibly will have, and that's based on the genetics, because genetic of course is a different science. From a scientific perspective we can discuss that in separate forums later, but just to give a gist that the different genetic combinations that we have, and in the genetic language it's called the SNPs, or the single nucleotide polymorphism, or even you can say a word which is very popular that we all hear during TV debates, etc., is the mutations. So mutation is a sudden change that happens in the genes or the genetic structure, which actually creates a health indication. So this could be predicted much before 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, 5 years. Now that means you got so much of a time to make corrections and even negate the problems that disease could create, or you could delay it, or you can actually eradicate that ill effects of that disease. So it's not clinical per se. It is a wellness test, but it definitely can be made used by people who are sick or people who are willing, or people who are preparing to be sick. So this test is something that we all need to do. It's a once in a lifetime test. Unlike a blood test, you don't have to do it repeatedly. You'll have to do it once, because we can change a lot of things about our life. In our life, we can I can go bald tomorrow, or I can do a lot of physical changes. I can do that, but one thing that I will not be able to change in my life is I cannot change my biological father and mother. That doesn't happen. And I can have another, rich dad, poor dad kind of a phenomenon. I can adopt somebody as, like somebody can adopt me as her son, and I can have a, mother. But biologically, I have only one mother and one father. So that means the genes that I carry are come from them. I cannot change them. So what I can change is the gene expression. So that means, like an electric switch, which also, just press it and then you have a AC, fan, electrical bulb opening, or rather working. Our genes are also can be managed by us. So what we do is that we do this test and tell them how you need to manage your genetic expression. So that means if you have an onset of a diabetic condition that's going to come, we'll tell you, do this as a wellness solution. With this, you will be able to either negate or eradicate the diabetic condition that you can have. So it could be through a gene-based diet. We'll give a gene-based diet. I may be intolerant to a lot of foods. I might not consume certain foods, because that creates some kind of a allergic or intolerance condition in my body. So I can change my food. I can tell that what kind of an exercise you should be doing. You will see that a lot of people are doing 2 hours of jogging and not losing weight, whereas some people go to the gym and then do a lot of heavy lifting and then they injure their ankle muscles, etc. Now that's all wrong, because very unscientific approach. So we will tell, based on the genetic makeup, should you be jogging, should you be swimming, should you be walking, brisk walking, or running faster, or you need to be doing weight or cardio. That means there are 2 types of exercise that can be done by an individual. Either it's a power oriented, which will increase your heart rate, and that would you will sweat it out. That's one approach. The other one is an endurance approach. That means you need to have a lot of stamina. So that's why you see in athletics, not everybody who is a runner runs 100 meters. There are specializations. Some people run 100 meters, sprinters, they are very good. But there are some people who are very good at marathons. Usain Bolt doesn't really run a marathon, while a lot of people who win marathons, I don't know their name, they're not very popular. They're all from Africa. So if you see Caribbean and these, people from US, they carry a genes which makes them 100-meter sprinter in Olympics, and they win the medals. Indians don't carry those genes. So it will take a lot of years to develop those stamina and everything. Or maybe we need to do a little genetic engineering. There are some ethical debates on that. So that's something that we can debate later. So to answer your question, it's not clinical, it's not medical. It's a wellness test that you do. It's most like a genetic based master health checkup. And in order to give various solutions, as I said, we also give food changes which we can incorporate in our kitchen, or we'll also recommend a lot of supplements. Our organization also sells a lot of Ayurveda and food supplements. We also advise people about using their water. Now, what's something that people neglect is that we spend a lot of money on food, and a lot of our kitchen is full with a lot of snacks and all kinds of things, but our water actually is not something that we pay attention to. So we also tell people saying that you need to hydrate your body and you need to keep your body alkaline. So we also have various alkaline water solutions, whether it is for your skin and hair through a hydrogen shower. We also have hydrogen generating bottle. We have high pH water generated through our domestic machines. Our organization also is now popularizing alkaline water through commercial machines. We are also one of the companies who are now installing a lot of ATMs with alkaline water. Just pay through Google Pay and you will get alkaline water. So that has a higher pH. There is a negative ORP. So that means it works like an antioxidant. We are also adding a lot of nutrients to the body. So your water is not just mineral water, but it's a nutrient rich water which you can consume, because your body is 70% of water. So a lot of times good food that we are consuming is not digested and it's not absorbed, with which the metabolism of the body gets distracted, and people don't really get the value of the food that we are eating. It's called bioavailability. A lot of food that we do eat, it actually goes out of our body without really creating positive impact. And we are also talking about a lot of other measures. So it's something that everybody can do. We've been having clients across India, literally every state. A lot of Indians who are staying outside of India, they settle there. When they come down, they hear about this test and the complete genetic based program, and they opt for it, saying that okay, it's a fantastic thing. And we also have counseled them over digital mode like Skype or Zoom and a lot of other mediums. So we have actually reached out to more than 20 countries, and we are extremely committed to do that. And we are helped by a lot of medical doctors also, because we talk about nutrition. Medical doctors are not really gung-ho about nutrition, because they feel that, look, we have not studied much about it, so we are not authorities. So if you have an obesity condition, you don't go to a medical doctor, unless you want to do a bariatric surgery. You go to a dietitian, you go to a nutritionist, and then you go to a lifestyle coach. So same way, how about we considering all the other lifestyle conditions can be addressed through a genetic test? So, a government of India has already passed a bill in Lok Sabha way back in 2019, July 25th or so, about forensic test, because it helps people track a lot of criminal background people, or theft, or some identification. Even in the I mentioned about the barge which was drowned during cyclone Taukte, and a lot of bodies were damaged beyond recognition. So they actually did the genetic test, and today I read an article that they've been able to match 10 bodies, 20 bodies are still they're struggling. So a genetic test can do this. These are all forensic tests. So we don't do forensic test. We are not authorized to do it, so we don't do that. We are capable of doing clinical tests, especially for cancer, infertility, obesity, diabetes, etc. That's a different set of tests. Right at this point in time, we are not really focusing on that. Our focus is not to treat the sick people. The healthcare industry is taking care. Our effort is to ensure that the so-called healthy people don't become sick. So we tell them, okay, do this test, find out if you have some conditions, come on, start working right now, make your lifestyle changes, don't eat certain things, eat these things more. So all that corrections is what we are giving.
Super. So, Stan, apart from diabetes and heart attack, what are the other risk factors, your team could identify with these tests? If you can, mention few of them, so that the audience who are watching it can relate to, okay, isme ye bhi hota hai.
Yeah, so as far as genetic tests are concerned, one second. Okay. As far as the genetic tests are concerned, the approach here is a little different. We tend to look at it from a prism of diseases. I would rather say, let's have a reverse mechanism. The reverse mechanism is saying, okay, let us scan our body. Let's, sequence the genetic makeup that we had, and then now predict as to what are the various conditions that we can get. For example, let's say thyroid. Thyroid is also, fastest growing condition a lot of people have. But rather than looking at thyroid, I would look at what is the root cause. Now, deficiency of vitamin A could be one of the reasons. There could be other multiple reasons. So that's one. So I would rather, through our test, would tell our report, our testing program would tell that you have a tendency of vitamin A deficiency. It's not being absorbed in your body, or you're not eating enough food which has vitamin A. So that might lead to a condition called thyroid. So that could be one thing. I'll give you two popular examples. One is that we are drinking a lot of tea, coffee, dark chocolates, Red Bull kind of energy drinks. All this has an element called caffeine. Now, caffeine is like a small drug. It actually gets into your brain, and students during exams will drink a lot of coffee just to be alert and awake. The truck drivers or people who drive at night will keep sipping tea and coffee. Of course, it also has milk. It also has sugar, which our body doesn't require, because it doesn't give any nutrients per se. It actually gives you calories. Now, this tea and coffee, the element that it carries, it has caffeine. Now, my genetic makeup will not probably digest that. Now, what would happen if if I drink tea and coffee for years and years? Well, it's not an allergic condition, so that there are no immediate symptoms, but it is a intolerance kind of a approach. Intolerance is manifested after 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And this thing, uh, there is this chemical molecule called paraxanthine. Now, this paraxanthine is deposited in the liver, which is not broken, and it is not digested, or it's not flushed out of the body. So this accumulates in the liver for so many years, and one fine day it starts traveling with the blood to the entire body, and it can also cause cardiac plaques, or artery blockages, etc., leads to cardiac conditions. And today we have research papers to prove, and they have come out with these research studies that continuous consumption of caffeine over a period of time might lead to cardiac arrest as well. So we have seen in our society, there are a lot of people apparently who are very healthy, fitness freaks, succumbing to cardiac arrest, and they say this is the case of cardiac arrest, and everybody says, okay, that's a very accepted normal way of people dying. Now it's become so obvious to people, but people don't investigate further as to why did he get cardiac arrest. And one of the reasons could be caffeine. So same way, gluten is a protein that's found in wheat and wheat products. So today, I mean, like it's a staple food across the world. We have a lot of things, food items that's created apart from our rotis, chapatis, fulkas, and pastas, pizzas, pani puris and everything else. So many bakery items, all the biscuits and everything are done. So we are consuming that. Just look at a situation. You're not even aware as to what gluten is, and you're highly gluten intolerant, and you keep eating gluten based products made from wheat, and you have a lot of conditions like you have problems with your gut health, you have irritable bowel syndrome, you have acidity, you have burping, bloating, all these kind of things, and you go to a GI, and he will give you medicine, and you feel good, and then you take this and that. Now that's symptomatic treatment. A genetic test will tell you that you have this condition which is because of gluten, and our counselors visualize a situation where say, okay, you stop eating gluten because you can eat all these things with alternative food grains as well. You can have a roti made from other food grains. And just imagine, it's a magic. People actually feel that, okay, I think a lot of my problems are solved. Now, there's no medicine that you need to take. It's just a small lifestyle alteration in the food that you're making. So gluten can cause around 80-100 different, conditions. Just imagine somebody is having acidity for, let's say, 5 years, and he's been taking pentacid and centacid and all those kind of things, and he's been continuously taking because he feels good with the consumption of these medicines. Just imagine taking that for 5 years, 10 years, and do you think that there won't be side effects? Well, of course, their medicine will have side effects. There are so many drugs that have been, after 15, 20 years of research, which has been rolled out for human consumption, considered to be safe, have been withdrawn later because it has not worked across the whole world's population. So that means there are also shortcomings in spite of a lot of research. So they have been withdrawn because there could be internal bleeding, or there could be so many other side effects. We see that even in some of the vaccines that have been made lately. But having said that, we fully endorse that everybody should be taking vaccines as soon as possible. That's the best that we can do at this point in time. So these shortcomings can be addressed through an insight. So this is basically, I would sum it up by saying that a person is having a GPS to lead a healthy life. Now, 20 years back, if I had to go to a unknown destination, I probably had to struggle my way, asking tens of people saying that which should I take, left, right, and how to go. So to reach to that destination, we had to struggle. But today we have a GPS that will give you a whole lot of new services, like your starting time, your end time, when are you likely to reach, where there is a traffic congestion, you can take an alternative route. Just imagine a genetic test will be like a GPS that you can fit into your body. It will actually tell you how efficiently you can go and reach your destination, and it will tell you, don't take this route, that's not going to help you, take this route, don't eat gluten, you take bajra or a lot of other food grains. So we'll tell you those technologies which are based on absolute science and research. There is no test that's added in our panel which is not scientifically backed. So as far as health conditions, name it, we can actually find out, because the conditions are a manifestation of fundamental deprivation of nutrients through the food, or we're not treating our body the way it should be treated through various other measures.
Super. Stan, this is very interesting. Thanks for bringing this up and sharing this in a very detailed manner, because this is what the audience, or the viewers or the public should be aware of, rather than running after medication, or running after doctors after they realize that it's already crossed the stage. What age group it's recommended? What age is it recommended for them to go through these tests?
In velocity, around 10,000 plus customers that we have had, the youngest was a child of 1.5 years. It was a little difficult for them, for the child to spit in the tube that we had given, but their parents managed to get the saliva collected. By the way, before you collecting the saliva, you need to be fasting for 30 minutes. You need to gargle your mouth with fresh water, and shouldn't be consuming food or any kinds of food items, or smoke, or brush your hair, teeth, etc. So you can collect saliva samples. So they managed to get the child gargling, not having milk in the mouth, and then they probably collected in a cup and they transferred without manual touch. So that's the youngest. And we also have people who are like in the 90s who have done the test. Our late Bejan Daruwala, India's very famous astrologer, was one of our clients, and we actually approached him just, I think, 3 or 4 months before he could he expired. So he was one of our old clients. We also have a lot of clients like the ex-president of India, Pratibha Patil, and her husband. They're also our valued VIP clients. I can name a few. Of course, I don't want to commercially exploit them, but just to tell you that Sri Ravi Shankar also is one of our clients. Pooja Bedi, the actor or a wellness campaigner now, also has been our brand ambassador for a year, popularizing, and we doing a lot of workshops, symposium together. We also have a lot of medical doctors, politicians, cricketers, sports people, Bollywood people who are into the show business, so they need to be fit and understand, how their body is behaving. So a lot of people. So the range could be anything. A lot of people might have this mindset that, oh, I'm already 60, I'm 70, abhi aur kitne din baki hai, so I don't need this test. Now that's a very pessimistic approach. Now I believe that today is the first day of the rest of your life. So how many more years you can live depends on your mindset. It's all here. Joe Biden, I was to give some example. Joe Biden is what, nearly 80 right now, when he's fighting for the election of the superpower country across the world. Now, when he retires, probably will be 83, 84. That's a lot of stress. The whole world is, the countries are fighting. There's a lot of destruction happening. There's a lot of fight that's going against Corona as well. Tough times. It's a tough job, but he's up to it because of the mindset. So if you are 60s, 70s, 80s, please do it, because whatever number of years you plan to live, and it's all in your hands if you really can get a control, you can live happily, knowingly, they say today the customers are informed customers because they all read labels, want to know more about the products. Same way you become aware of your own body. And I myself am a testimony. I was overweight. I could do a gene-based diet, understanding all my intolerances. I lost around 12 kgs in around 1.5 months without doing much. Just a change in the food habits, then a little bit of exercise that I did, normal things. And I still enjoying the food that I've been eating. So that's a transformation. We've got a lot of testimonies. I would request people to go to our websites. At the end, probably you'll be able to see this. And we are now popularizing this. Last 2 days back, when we had this symposium, a lot of medical doctors actually endorsed up the technology. It's relatively new, but I'm sure in the next 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years, genetics is something that will become very, very common. And people will be able to take the benefit to get the GPS in their body and to maneuver and navigate their life to become more healthier, happier, and longer.
Super. Stan, so we also have Dr. Satish. Is this the right time for him to get him on the screen?
I had the privilege of working very closely with Dr. Satish a few years back, and his passion for towards the patients is amazing, and I'm really privileged to have him also as the co-speaker and I'm sure it's time for him to invite and then know his thoughts as well.
Yeah. So Dr. Satish is here on the screen. Welcome, Dr. Satish. So Dr. Satish is the he runs this JR Diabetes and Wellness Center in Hyderabad. And Stan, maybe you can talk about how Satish can add on to this.
Well, I think, I mean, his credentials, if I speak, I think I need to be speaking for another 20 minutes. He's got a beautiful center at Hyderabad. I'd been to Hyderabad in Telangana in the month of December. I had the privilege of visiting his center, but we have worked together in the past, and we've done a lot of scientific symposium together on wellness and the kind of knowledge that he gives, and he's a doctor with a difference. He's not a out and out commercial doctor, but I think he does treat his patients with a lot of intellectual information as well. Educating a patient also is very, very important. Dr. Satish, I would request you to share this, take over the screen and then share your thoughts.
Good evening, all. Thank you so much for inviting me, Stan and Ravi Shankar. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, it's wonderful lecture by you, Stan. It's wonderful. I learned many things through you now about genetics. And friends, let me tell you, genetics is a very big subject. I cannot tell you in a few minutes. It takes days together. If there is even you talk about genetics, it's not enough. It's so much of vast knowledge. Only one thing I would like to tell you is simple manner. We have about 10 to 100 million cells in our body. Every cell has got a nucleus, as already well explained by our dear Stan. Nucleus has got a chromosomes. All this has a DNA. All these things tells you who you are. What is going to be with you? What is going to happen for you? So everything coding is done by. It has come from generations together, and now it started happening in your life. When you identify such problems, see genetics earlier days, like when you want to do a genetic test, you have to go to only an institute run by that state, or only 2-3 centers in a state, and which is to be very, very expensive. And you need to wait almost months together to get a report. Now, things have been improved, and Stan has brought such a wonderful technology to India. And this is really helping the people to understand their code, what is there inside. So what is going to happen? Like as rightly said by astrology, it shows by looking at the form what is going to happen in your future. It's going to tell us. See, for example, I'm an allopathic doctor. If any patient comes to me and say, doctor, tell me how to prevent a diabetes or how to prevent myself from obesity, I don't have any answer. Yes or no? I will tell you only, boss, eat right, take some sufficient rest, do some exercises. That's all. I don't have an answer exactly what I'm supposed to talk to that person. Now we have a scientific evidence which can talk about what is going to happen in future. Simple. By knowing those things, identify that, pinpoint that problem and correct it. That's it. You don't have to become a patient then later. I practice diabetology. I have few thousands of patients who comes to me. But only thing is we tell them, see, by your own mistakes you become diabetic. But what all those mistakes, he himself doesn't know, even doctor doesn't know. But when we do those genetics tests, then we will come to an understanding. Not only myself, even my patient can understand, yes, this is the problem. So if I can correct and overcome that, I can minimize. And intake of medicines will come down. Okay. So not only diabetic, my dear friends, sometime back Ravi asked something about what all conditions. Like, let me tell you, as human being, whatever the disease they are expressing now, you name it, cancer, heart problems, kidney problems, diabetes, or Alzheimer's disease, Parkinsonism, you name it, everything is there in your genetic code. Once you decode that genetic, then you'll understand what is going to happen. And you try to avoid what kind of foods you are intolerant. You avoid those things. I did my genetic testing, and it is clearly told me that what kind of food I should eat. I'm eating accordingly that, and in fact, I started losing my weight, and in fact, my health condition has improved a lot. I'm becoming more younger after doing that. Those things, very simple. Only thing is, let us understand our own genes, and this is only one time we need to do. Not because the genes are not going to change. It is going to be the same, and what you are going to give it to your children also the same. So first you understand, and let us plan your children also do this, so that what kind of genes they are bearing, what going to happen in future. Let us understand. See, people come to us and they do master health checkup. We will know with those tests for that period, that time, what is there. But I cannot predict what is going to happen. Yes or no? So, whereas here, the genetic decoding, it will help us to understand what all problems going to come. Identify, pinpoint. Where is it? Katham. They're very simple. I'm talking in a very small, little understanding way, because this is a huge subject in a layman's language, so that everyone here can understand what I'm talking. Anything you name it, as a rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, or backache, lower backache problem, or prolapse disc, or you name it, any genetic disorders which is running through the families, it can be identified and rectified naturally, without much of too much of medication or anything. Just lifestyle changes and changes in the sequence, and you know the circadian rhythm and all. We have biological clock. It will exactly tell us what time you should eat, what time you should sleep, how many hours you should sleep, and what kind of exercise is suitable for you. So you understand your biological system, and do as it advises. That's it. And rest is taken care automatically. We are all doing so many mistakes. We are all going against nature, and we are becoming a victim for our own deeds by doing so many mistakes. But when you understand your genes, genetic code, you know what is going to happen. So once you understood, you correct yourself. That's it. Everything is going to be all right. Am I right, Stan? Mr. Stan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think understanding ourselves better, and you said that correctly, that genetics will determine, and genetics will tell you who you really are, not from a physical perspective alone, but also emotional and behavior. We are an expression of our genes, and
absolutely.
Our temperament, as I initially mentioned, whether we're going to be soft or very jovial or very arrogant, or there's also tests that we do called their social antisocial element. Antisocial is that you'll always be like a rebel. So that's a psychological trait. And of course, we are not making it a little scientific things, a scientific tone to this. We are putting it in a very layman language. But we've been debating a lot of things, that today genetics is impacting not just human health, but every aspect of our life. I'll give you a small example. There is this concept called, there's a technology called CRISPR-Cas9, which is basically editing of the gene. Like we have all the fruits and food grains and vegetables, everything what we are eating today is genetically modified, because the agriculture has to be a profitable business for all the farmers or people who are involved. There's a company called Monsanto, which is like the father of genetic modification, and they're like a big giant. So we are eating this now. There is this technology called CRISPR-Cas9, with which you can actually edit the genetic material, and you can in the embryo, and you can have a designer babies. You can actually, the couples, affluent couples today, can actually design a baby that they want. Their complexion, height, weight, hair color, eye color, and everything. Now that's a little unethical, of course. There are debates. So there's this scientist researcher in China who actually produced 2 such babies, and they're now 2 years. So there was a huge debate that happened across the world, and he's been now given a punishment of 3 years for because the China government said that you shouldn't be doing this. Now, what I want to tell you here is that that's an unethical use per se, but this can impact. Just imagine tomorrow China says, I want to change the genetic editing of all the entire People's Liberation Army, the soldiers that they have. Their ability to fight their enemies will be much more than any other country. Just imagine they're changing genetic coding of all their athletes. The number of medals that they will be earning in Olympics could be drastically different. So this also there is the other side of that. So genetics is today, there is also a technology where you can actually produce fuel using algae, and which you can you mix that algae with the water and it will become fuel. So that technology is already available, but all the oil producing economies have ensured that it doesn't really come into the public domain, simply because the entire economy of the world can be affected. So these are some extreme innovations that are happening in the world of genetics. When we talk about the workshop, we say this. There are today fish which are glowing. So, people would like to have some colorful glowing fishes in the aquarium. There are animals which are glowing, so that, if there's a cat in your house, you can actually easily find out. There are countries which actually have trees which are glowing, so they don't need street lights. So what they've done is genetic modification. You have this jugnu, which actually has an artificial, which has a natural light. So they have taken the genes away and then put it in the plant kingdom, and then they have made a combination. So there are crazy, researches that are going on. So that's the other extreme. So coming back to our question, as you, Dr. Satish, rightly said, we need to simplify our health, and genetics is definitely helping us, and we can give a lot of solutions that are customized. The one size fits all phenomenon is now getting obsolete. It's not going to be appreciated by anyone. Take, for example, vaccine. Vaccine is done as per the protocol, and there is a direction. So everybody needs to take the vaccine. Just imagine we had a situation where everybody will get a vaccine as per their genetic makeup, and that would probably work wonderfully. But of course, that technology will take a lot of time. So you're absolutely right, doctor, that genetics is helping people simplify their health by understanding what are the risk factors and address them on a personal level. And that's why precision medicine is what they're calling. Today, pharma industries are experimenting. And yesterday in the symposium, we had one genetic expert, Dr. Amol, saying that in the USA FDA on the website, there are 150 drugs that have been mentioned, that these drugs you can administer to the patients only after you do a genetic test. So that means even the medical world is now opening. In India, already a lot of oncologists are doing a lot of genetic tests. After that, they would determine what kind of chemotherapy it should be given, or what should be the dosage, etc. Because a person may not be able to hold or withstand the effect of a chemotherapy. So they determine based on the condition. So there are tests available, and of course clinical tests are quite popular in India as well. But we as an organization are sticking to the world of wellness. We are talking to people who are apparently healthy and help them to understand their lifestyle disorders to begin with, and prevent them from getting into a field of full-blown diseases which are not reversible. So genetics can help reverse the diseases and help prevent them, of course. So this is a wonderful technology.
So yeah, this test is required by everyone actually. Only thing is we need to create an awareness how important this. That's it. And the person says I don't require is ignorant. That's all I can tell you. This is important, very, very important for all of us. All of us. Yes.
Okay. So Stan, where is this test available, and what are the next steps for somebody who wants to go for this?
Well, we can visit the website called velocitygenetics.com. Velocity genetic, W stands for velocity. Velocity starts with W, and W stands for wellness, not V. It's W. So Velocity Genetics, and there you will also find other websites. We also have another website called velocitybooster.com. We have mywignet.com. So these are different websites. But if you can Google it, I'm sure it's quite easy. myvelocitybooster.com is the right website to go to. So there you can find all the details, which are the tests that we do, 210 tests across 18 different categories. There we are talking about, doctor mentioned about a lot of neurological disorders. So there's one section about neurological, fitness, diabetes, thyroid, so many other things. You can list thousands of diseases. So all this, the list is available, and we also have the procedure as to how you can buy this test. So they buy on the website. There is a small saliva collection sample kit that you will get at home delivered. So it will come to your doorstep, and there is also a video that will be given to you. So you can just see as to how to collect the sample. It's a very simple thing. We very jokingly say Indians are good at spitting everywhere. So we give them a tube where you spit 2 ml there, and it probably can change your life for better and for healthier life. So you send the sample back to us, and it will be then processed in the lab. So initial 6-7 days takes in processing the DNA and extracting the chemical that we are putting there. It's like a preservative. It safeguards the DNA. As the doctor said, every cell has the same genetic material. So through a sample, it's a non-invasive thing. You don't really have to have a jab, or you don't have to extract blood. It's a simple home test. So you can just spit and then send it. The preservative ensures the saliva sample is not contaminated. It goes to the lab, 7 days, all the processes happen. Then the bioinformatics officers or the genetic officers would sit. They get a lot of raw data, which I and you cannot understand. It's all alphabets like A, T, C, and G. It's a different combination. So it's like not even French and Greek. It's a different world altogether. So highly qualified bioinformaticians will sit and then make a report based on as to what are the genetic combinations, what are the mutations that you have, and that mutations will be matched with a lot of research. With that, they determine as to what is the risk factor you have, whether it's a low risk, whether it's a moderate risk, or whether it's a high risk. And our counselors then will send, once the report comes to you, it will come to you by email or WhatsApp. You need to form and give all those details. The counselors will sit and explain to you the report in such a way that people sometimes have said that it's like an eye opener. There are medical doctors who have flown from various cities of India to come and to have a personal face-to-face counseling, because they felt that this is going to be a game changer, and they get saying that this is valuable. So this valuable information, but the bottom line is in implementing that insights that you get. You can't say, okay, look, I can't be eating roti is what you've been, that's a very simple, popular example to give. But we'll also tell you a lot of other things. We have solved a lot of complicated cases. There are children of the same parents eat the same food in the home, but one is like putting on decent weight, healthy weight. The other one is very, very anemic and not putting on weight at all. And they've tried all the commercial things like give this brand, that brand, and all those things, and it has not worked. They've done a genetic test, and we have recommended a gene-based diet, and they're now happy saying that, okay, she's gaining weight, my child is gaining weight. That's a change based on the genetic. You can't be, having a cloth and then, taking nutrition or supplements without any scientific evidence. That's like trial and error method. That would dry your resources, time, efforts, and you also may be disappointed sometimes that it's not working for you, and you might lose hope, saying, oh, diets don't work for me, etc. You try this and you will feel, wow, it's working for me. You can, your body starts speaking to you, and this is what you can do. A lot of us have done their genetic test for the entire family. We also have different pricing for individuals, for a couple and a family. So we would like to create genomic wellness families, so that what happens in your kitchen is well discussed and then understood. We are not just eating for hunger or for taste or just to feel good with a lot of junk brands. We are eating to take care of our body. And today during pandemic, people have realized that what is the importance of immunity, because rich people with a lot of money, well, their money has not been helping them to save their life. It's the immunity that matters. So, well, of course, it has become a cliche that everything and anything, everybody talks about immunity, but you can't, devalue the importance of immunity. So this is something that we all need to take care of. And I would like to really thank Dr. Satish for acknowledging the importance of this test and endorsing it, because as a medical doctor he holds a lot of value with his patients. So I wish a lot more medical doctors also. We already have a lot of doctors. I think we have got around 300 to 350 doctors at various point in time have come and appreciated in all our symposiums, workshops. We have some people in our medical advisory board as well. So they come and educate, because India still our medical mindset is such that कि doctor बोलेंगे तो करेंगे, otherwise people everything that they want to show the doctor. So we want a lot of doctors to come into this fold as well, and I'm sure it will happen. So you can go to the website, just to answer your question again. So you can go to the website, and then there will be a procedure. So our executives will get back to you, and the procedure is quite simple. You get your report, you get your counseling. You also get an action plan, the recommendation within 7 days from your counseling. And we also have a 1-year monitoring, or rather a wellness help desk. You can get back to us within the same program. 1 year, 12 months is what we provide their service. And we also keep the DNA that we collect for 6 years in the gene banking. So if there is any upgrade test that's available, there are some research paper coming, and then says, okay, if you have this gene combination, you are likely to behave like this. So, and if people want to opt for it, they don't have to send the saliva sample again, simply because your genes are the same, the genetic material is the same. So now there is a new insight that's going to come. So it's a very new science, very evolving science. And we at Velocity Genetics and Velocity Booster are quite excited about taking this technology to people and tell them, saying, look, there is a tool that's now available. You better make use of it, because we spend a lot of money on on treatment after the onset of disease. I know wiser person will actually say that I and Satish, Dr. Satish were in some seminars where he used to say wise people wear a helmet or a seat belt before the accident. There's not wisdom in people wearing a helmet after they've broken their head. So it's a simple common sense. So not just proactive, but I think predictive healthcare is the future. I think we have a lot of people who are now taking a lot of precautions for their health. A genetic test is a boon that the technology has given us. So I think we all need to do this and get the benefit of it.
Super. Thanks a lot, Stan. Thanks a lot, Dr. Satish, for joining us on this particular show and sharing these insights, because a lot of these are like pretty new, and it is very informative, and it is not something like ye test bata diya, wo wellness kara diya. This is more related to science. There are facts, and we are talking about tests which actually shows what the body has. So I think people should go for it. Thanks for nicely explaining the process of to go for the test and who should do it. So friends, we'll share the contact details in the link below, and the website details. So feel free to get in touch if you have any queries. The team will get back to you and answer all the queries you have. Anything that we couldn't cover in this particular show, you can also ask those questions. And again, Stan, thanks a lot for coming on this show, and thank you, Dr. Satish.
It was a pleasure speaking, and thank you, Mr. Ravi Shankar and Work TV. Wish you all the best with the mission that you're doing of taking various subjects to people. So thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Satish, as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you, guys.